entitled How to Delegitimize NATO. And we've got a very interesting panel of speakers. They are each going to speak for 7 minutes. And then when they've all finished, it will be over to you. We have chair chaos now. Right, okay, so the speakers will go to the lectern to speak. They will speak in the order shown on the programme. Piotr Ikonowiz from the New Left in Poland is unable to be with us, but I'm delighted to say that we're joined by Francis Wurtz, so he is an addition to the programme. So first I turn to Anne Wright from Veterans for Peace in the United States. Anne, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in Brussels. And first, I have to give my apologies that the President of the United States is also here. Sorry we've inflicted that on you all. I want to also recognize other members of U.S. peace groups that are here. Joe Lombardo from the United National Anti-War Coalition is somewhere around here. He's got real curly hair, you'll see. And Matt Navilliers, who is with the United for Peace and Justice. They are part of a large number of groups that we do have in the United States that are working on the issue of stopping wars, that are for peace. As you can tell, we have not been very successful. I myself used to be in the U.S. military. I used to be in the U.S. government. I was in the U.S. military for 29 years, retired as a colonel. I was a U.S. diplomat and served in embassies in Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Sierra Leone, Micronesia, Afghanistan, and Mongolia. And then I resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq in March of 2003. Oops, so since then, I've been a part of various peace groups, including Veterans for Peace, a group of military people who have been in the U.S. military, and militaries of other countries. And I'd like to, if Ed is in here from Ireland, there he is back there with our Vets for Peace shirt on. We're a group of people who have been in militaries around the world and who now challenge our own government's military policies. And the military policies that we are concerned about right here now and with NATO, where President Trump is continuing the mantra of the United States. It's not just President Trump that's saying all of the countries have to cough up their 2% no matter what it does to your military or what it does to your overall national budget. And as we know, the military budget of the United States is almost an all-consuming budget. By some estimates, our military budget takes over 50% of the budget of the United States by the time you add in what goes into the Defense Department, the Department of Energy for all the nuclear weapons, for the Veterans Administration, for all of these tentacles of the great octopus called the military. Trying to come up with how do you delegitimize NATO? Well, I think the discussions that we have in our day-to-day interventions with members of our community, talking about those things that we always talk about how the military budgets are taking from education, from health, from the environment, from all of these things. And I just wanted to go over some of the things that we in the United States are trying to do. And as I said, it's not with great success. We are not being successful in stopping the increases of military budgets, where the Trump administration now has a budget that is just being passed now of $603 billion for the military, and an increase by the Trump administration of $54 billion. $54 billion as an increase. And that is, let's talk about enemies. The enemies that the United States is now designating, enemies that NATO is designating. How about Russia? Russia. Now, what is the military budget of Russia? It's just a little bit over that $54 billion, which is only the increase in the U.S. We talk about the huge amount of monies. That is, to me, how we delegitimize something like NATO, is talking about the huge expenditures that we have, and also about what the threats really are to it. I want to go over a couple of things, though, that is for you all who have been so kind to organize this conference here in Brussels, to bring together people from all over Europe and from the United States. And are there any people from Canada that are here? Well, for wherever you brought people in, just to go over with you all some of the things in the United States that as we work for peace, as we try to work to stop wars, in our liaison with other groups, because quite honestly, the peace movement is just not that strong. It's not that strong. It will be becoming stronger as Trump stays longer in office. But we are going to be in liaison with lots of other groups and issues. For example, if you remember, the day after Trump was inaugurated, a women's march. And how many of you all were a part of a women's march and wherever you were in the world during that time? Raise your hand. Thank you very much for standing with us in the United States, saying to our president, we do not want the misogyny, the sexist remarks that he's making.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Boy, this goes fast. I'm just going to list another couple of things. We are working with people on the environmental issues, the Standing Rock people. We're working with scientists and the climate people. We're working on whistleblowers, for example. We do have one little tiny success in the great pressure that you all helped with clemency for the whistleblower Chelsea Manning. Thank God, there's one. And some of the other things we're going to be doing, the United National Anti-War Coalition that Joe right up there is a part, as one of the co-conveners, will be having a conference in June. We'll be having the Women's Ban the Bomb March in June. In August, we'll be having the Democracy Conference. Then we'll be having the Veterans for Peace Conference. While here in Europe, the G20 Hamburg Conference is going on. The International Action Against Nuclear Weapons will be going on in Buchel. In September, we'll be having in Okinawa, because it's just not here, it's the militarization of the whole world. Okinawa, the Women for Genuine Security, will be meeting there to challenge militarism in Hanoko and Tokai. We'll be meeting in South Korea to stop the THAAD missiles. In October, we'll be doing Stop the Drones at Creech Drone Base, assassin drones at Creech Drone Base. And in October, Women Cross the Demilitarized Zone will be focusing on North Korea and having an international conference, probably in China. So we're going to be doing lots and lots of things, a lot of things. I've just come from Cuba, where we had the 5th conference on the abolition of foreign military bases. 250 people from 30 countries were at that. Talking a lot about the foreign military bases, most of which are the United States, where the United States still has over 800 bases, and the longest one we've ever had, 117 years on the island of Cuba, that being Guantanamo. So don't give up on us in the United States. We're working hard. We have a long way to go, as you all know, from all of our militarization of our presidency. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anne. Our next speaker is Chris Nineham from the Stop the War Coalition in the UK. Chris.
Big respect to Anne Wright, and thanks to the organisers of this excellent 2 days of protest and discussion, which I think has been very heartening and very inspirational. I just wanted to start by saying I don't think we should underestimate the extent to which NATO has actually got credibility problems, just like so many of the kind of pan-national and actually national elite institutions that exist in very many parts of the world nowadays. There is actually a significant minority in every country in the West who is anti-NATO, including in the countries that are part of the network. For example, in France, 25% of the population oppose French participation in NATO. I won't go through all the figures, but there are real, mass levels of opposition amongst minorities. In the US, it's actually the case now that active support for NATO is a minority business amongst the US population. So, it's a slightly more complex situation than everyone's signing up. I think one of the problems that we have with the NATO question is it's not particularly high on the agenda, on the political agenda for many populations. In Britain, it's not really been much of a part of the conversation in the general election that's taking place at the moment. It's been there, but it's not a major consideration. Another problem, and this goes to the heart of the thing for me, is that there's a contradiction between what people think about NATO as an institution and what people think about the actual policies that it pursues. And if you get into what NATO actually does, or what it has the capacity to do, then the situation changes dramatically. For example, in most countries in NATO, the idea that NATO countries should go to the support of Turkey if it was attacked is a very, very, very small number of, a small section of the population. That's just one example of things that could happen that NATO would have to do constitutionally, which would actually be deeply unpopular. Two major things seem to me to be vulnerabilities for NATO. One is, obviously, Donald Trump. I mean, we can say all sorts of things about what a dangerous man he is, but one thing about Donald Trump is he's the most hated president in US president in world history, both in the US and internationally. He's someone that very many communities feel that they need to mobilise against. Since he's been taken office, there have been hundreds of mass demonstrations in various different parts of the world. He is now head of NATO. It's scary, but in another sense, it's an opportunity for us to build a really broad movement against that organisation. The second vulnerability, key vulnerability for NATO, seems to me to be the history of the war on terror, for which it has been a major organising centre. I mean, it is now a commonplace amongst hundreds of millions of people around the world that Afghanistan was a disaster, taken over by NATO after a couple of years, that Iraq was a disaster, that the Libyan operation run by NATO was a disaster as well. And I think it's very important that we do everything we can to connect the NATO as an institution with the recent history of the kind of desperately devastating and disastrous operations that it's actually been involved in. And I think that's very, very important in terms of developing opposition to the institution itself. It seems to me that because of this, we do actually have the basis in the experience of the recent history of the wars and the at least relative success in terms of winning public opinion over these things in country after country for actually building a successful operation against NATO as an institution. Precisely because the wars have been so discredited, what the Western Alliance has to do is to kind of present each of the new operations that it gets involved in, interventions, with a new set of rhetorical justifications, with humanitarian justifications, democratic justifications, and so on and so forth. So I think at the same time, we need to build on the vulnerabilities, but there also are a series of arguments that I think we need to be pursuing in order to build on that potential opposition. I just want to list them very, very briefly. One is, we need to tackle the idea that Russia is the source of all evil in the world. I mean, I don't know about where you are, but in Britain, Putin and Russia, I mean, he's a nasty autocrat, his regime is deeply undemocratic and so on and so forth. But the Putin regime is being blamed for almost everything that's bad in British society. I mean, it's just extraordinary, you know. That's an important argument to take up, because the reality is it's NATO's expansionism in Eastern Europe that has been creating what is a very, very dangerous confrontation. It's been much more responsible than the Putin regime. Argument number two, I think given the nature of the governments that are in control of NATO, the governments that run the Western Alliance, There is no such thing as a humanitarian intervention under NATO or any other auspices. I think we have to win that argument. Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, they were all presented as pro-people, pro-democracy, pro-humanitarianism. Anyone who thinks that the current operation against Assad is in any way driven by concern for the Syrian people simply isn't learning from history. And one of the basic prerequisites for a successful movement is to learn from history. Number 3, terrorism and the whole arguments around terrorism. I mean, I think it's becoming beginning to be an accepted argument that simply pursuing an aggressive interventionist policy against ISIS, against terrorism simply won't work. We had a terrible terrorist incident, as you know, in Manchester a couple of days ago in Britain. It's a sort of a part of the popular response to that in Britain that, it's probably not sensible to fight any more foreign wars. I'm not saying that's explicit amongst the sort of wider population, but it's definitely there as an idea, and that's something we can develop. Fourthly, I think we need to go beyond the argument that we need to break from the cycle of violence, and we need to nail the argument that it's actually precisely been the interventions over the last 16 or 17 years that have created the instability, that have created the anger, that have created the volatility that has led to terrorism. And I think we need to get serious and upfront about that argument. There has been an exponential rise in terrorism across the world at the same time as the war on terror. And finally, the last point I want to make is I think we need to confront the final sort of fallback justification for the war, which is Islamophobia. I mean, ever since 9/11, there has been this outpouring, poisonous, toxic propaganda war that has been pursued by politicians, by the police, by the media, blaming the Muslim community, demonising, criminalising it, and trying to say that there's something inherently backward and violent about Islam as a religion. And it seems to me that's something as well we need to take head on and confront, because this is actually a central part of the generation of a kind of war propaganda. So I think if we have some optimism about the potential of the situation and we pursue those kind of arguments, we can build a mass and effective popular movement against NATO and its wars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed, Chris. Our next speaker is Reiner Braun from the International Peace Bureau and No to War, No to NATO. Reiner.
I have first a very easy answer what we should do to delegitimize NATO. We should continue on the way of yesterday. The way of demonstration and marches on the street and mobilizing the people. And I can only congratulate the organizers of yesterday for this fantastic event. This shows what is possible against NATO, and we should definitely continue on this way. This means we need much more public awareness about the military spending. The 2% of NATO is for me the key point of getting again a mass mobilization of people against militarism and war. Everyone is tackled by these 2%. And we have to show what these 2% for the people in our country means for social security, for healthcare system, for education, for science, for the whole development of a society. It is not only spending money, it is also militarization of the whole society. So the 2% question is for me the key point for the future development of the peace movement and for coming back developing the peace movement as a mass movement in the society. Second, we should make one future treaty to reality. We should make reality that the ban treaty will happen. I think the ban treaty is a historical chance to get a vote against nuclear weapons and to forbid nuclear weapons on this world. It will create not only new norms, it creates a new coalition of the huge majority of governments and peace movements against nuclear weapons. And this is really a historical chance for us for the future development of a change of the spirit in the society against militarism and nuclear weapons. So fight with us against nuclear weapons and for the ban treaty, which we hopefully will have ready on July 7th. And you know, we have not only to accuse something, we have something positive in a new worldwide coalition in whom we can work and force the NATO countries that they have to sign these ratification. The third point of delegitimation of NATO for me is we have to speak out the truth, the historical truth. And the historical truth is that the responsibility for the confrontation in Europe is lying by the governments of the NATO countries, above all by the governments of the big NATO countries like the United States and Germany and France. Their march to the east is the background of the problems we are facing today. This has nothing to do with the accusations made against Russia. And we have to speak out the historical truth, because only when we are speaking out these historical truths, then we can fight against the brutal propaganda of hate and enemy building, which is done by our politicians and by our leading governments. Hate is the background of war. Hate against Russia is the preparation of the next war in this world. So our obligation, our challenges, is to speak out the truth, and this is the best possibility to delegitimize NATO in its real politics. Because we have to put down NATO as an abstract monster to concrete reality. And this is 2% nuclear weapons and hate and enemy building, and that is the challenge we have to face. And for that, dear colleagues and dear friends, we need a much bigger peace movement in every country and worldwide. And you know, we have also to overcome some obstacles, with whom we are ourselves responsible. And the first obstacle we have to overcome is that we are not enough united. And for me, it's a pity that not all parts of the peace movement today are sitting in this room. And we have to fight and to convince and to look for better arguments and to create maybe also a better atmosphere between us, that we are more united, because only when we are united, we are strong. We have to come back to a more unity as the background for going further. And the next point, I think also we have to think how we can overcome, I will say it a little bit clear, some of our sectarian politics. I think we have to be much more open for coalition. For me, the rally yesterday was a good example of coalition building with trade unions, feminists, environmental and other groups, even when we are not agree in all our positions. And for the next step, the fight against the 2%, we need the trade unions. And we have to go deep steps to them to convince them to fight with us. We need the churches. Even when we find it stupid that the German church invites Obama to a meeting today at the Brandenburg Gate. We must be open to go to them and to convince them. Coalition building, new partners in the environmental, the anti-globalization, the social movement is a key point for me to develop the new peace movement. Final sentence to this. You know, like I think you all, I'm dreaming again to come back or to get a new 15th of February 2003. This day, when 50 million people all over the world was marching against the war in Iraq. It was possible to get so many people on the streets. And why not again get so many people on the street when the main point of all these people is their social welfare, is their own future? But we have to do it, we have to create these coalitions. And this is the background. I think we should continue working together. We should enlarge our networks. Our network No-to-War, No-to-Nato, and all the other networks. Maybe we have to create even a new network against 2% worldwide. That is the challenge we have. We have the chance. And these 2 days in Brussels, thank you to all the organizers, were a great start. Let us continue on this way. I think we can be successful. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Reiner. Our next speaker is Claudine Polet from the CSO in Belgium. Welcome, Claudine.
Je voudrais dire en premier lieu que je n'ai pas la prétention ni la capacité non plus de parler au nom de tout le mouvement de la paix de Belgique et encore moins au nom de tout le mouvement de la paix internationale. Donc là, je fais partie du comité de surveillance OTAN qui est un membre de la CNAPD, qui est la coordination nationale d'action pour la paix et la démocratie, qui représente un grand nombre d'organisations de la Belgique francophone. Je dois dire que nous avons fait une expérience extrêmement importante en nous trouvant devant la nécessité d'accueillir le contre-sommet de l'OTAN. On dit que la Belgique est la capitale de l'Europe, la capitale de l'OTAN. On a tout sur notre dos. Mais pendant tous ces jours-ci, la Belgique a quand même été capable d'être la capitale du rassemblement de toutes les forces pacifistes et beaucoup de forces de gauche qui ont une énorme volonté de continuer la lutte contre l'OTAN et de chercher quelle est l'issue pour arriver à la paix dans chaque pays, la paix en Europe et la paix dans le monde entier. Mais nous savons que l'OTAN, c'est une machine de guerre. Et ce qui était important tous ces jours-ci, je pense, c'est que c'est devenu quelque chose de conscient, qu'énormément de mouvements, d'organisations, d'associations et aussi de partis sont en train d'en prendre conscience. Je me rappelle, il y a quelques années, c'était même un congrès mouvement de paix à Cuba, quand nous sommes venus parler de l'OTAN et de mener une politique contre l'OTAN, expliquer ce qu'était l'OTAN, la machine de guerre, on nous regardait comme des extraterrestres. Ça, je vous l'assure. Mais depuis, il y a eu un énorme mûrissement de réflexion, d'expérience et d'action dans tous les mouvements de paix, dans tous les mouvements de gauche, et aussi une crise terrible de toute la vieille société. Et l'OTAN est devenue de façon de plus en plus évidente le principal fauteur de guerre de notre époque. Alors on peut parler c'est d'accord certainement, de l'importance de se réunir, de s'unifier aux Nations Unies pour obtenir un traité pour l'interdiction des armes nucléaires, d'accord, mais qu'est-ce qu'il nous faut, c'est abolir cette machine de guerre. En attendant qu'on ait un traité pour l'élimination des armes nucléaires, l'OTAN va encore mener 10 guerres, faire tuer des centaines, des dizaines, des milliers de gens de par le monde, et est en train, par tous les moyens, même s'il n'emploie pas encore les moyens nucléaires, par tous les moyens qu'il a, pour aboutir à une destruction ou à un désastre énorme pour toute l'humanité. Ce n'est pas seulement la guerre nucléaire qui est le désastre pour l'humanité, c'est la machine de guerre de l'OTAN et tout ce qu'elle représente. Alors, je pense très important qu'aujourd'hui on se soit réunis, qu'on ait fait toutes ces actions, que des militants pacifistes sont venus d'un grand nombre de pays pour affirmer cette compréhension et pour montrer leur volonté et leur décision de mettre fin à la guerre, parce que ce n'est pas l'interdiction des armes nucléaires qu'il nous faut, c'est abattre la guerre et l'interdiction de la guerre. Mais interdire la guerre, ça veut dire qu'il faut changer la société pour qu'elle ne soit plus productrice de guerre comme elle l'a été jusqu'à présent. Donc tout ce que nous avons discuté dans cette conférence, je pense que ça a été beaucoup de thèmes extrêmement pointus et c'était extrêmement intéressant, toutes les conclusions qui ont surgi de chacun des ateliers. Je voudrais dire 2 mots à propos de l'atelier sur l'élargissement de l'OTAN et les interventions militaires de l'OTAN. Nous avons invité Marko Milacic, qui est du mouvement pour la neutralité du Monténégro,
2 minutes.
qui est venu témoigner de tout le combat que fait la population du Monténégro. Et nous avons conclu une demande à toute l'Assemblée que notre réunion vote une résolution, fasse une déclaration et vote une résolution dans des termes qui sont en train d'être rédigés pour soutenir cette lutte du Monténégro qui réclame la neutralité, alors que le Monténégro avec son gouvernement mafieux est déjà dans un processus très avancé d'intégration à l'OTAN. Et tous les pays membres de l'OTAN sont en train de ratifier ou ont ratifié cette adhésion. Et nous, qu'est-ce que les mouvements de la paix avons fait pour l'empêcher, pour les obliger à faire machine arrière? Jusqu'à présent, on ne savait même pas que ça se passait. Donc ça, je pense, c'est une limitation importante de notre part. Et pourquoi? Par notre manque d'unification, par la défense de beaucoup d'intérêts particuliers d'un pays, d'un autre pays, alors qu'on a un besoin mondial d'une politique commune contre l'OTAN et d'avoir, comme Reiner a souligné 2 ou 3 points, 2 ou 3 revendications communes fondamentales pour tout le mouvement de la paix qui lutte contre l'OTAN. Et concrètement, nous proposons qu'on vote une résolution de soutien à la lutte du Monténégro. Alors, je voudrais terminer en saluant le dévouement et l'engagement immense de tous les militants de toutes les associations de Belgique, flamandes, bruxelloises ou wallonnes, flamandes ou francophones, disons, pour toute l'énergie qu'elles ont mis pour que cette réunion puisse se faire. Ça mérite tout notre soutien et nous avons été un noyau où on a, pas tout à fait, mais enfin en grande partie, on est parvenu à démontrer que c'est possible de surmonter ces fameuses divergences entre les différents grands mouvements internationaux de paix. Donc c'est sur cette voie-là que c'est très important de continuer. J'invite aussi qu'on salue et qu'on remercie toutes les associations et tous les bénévoles qui ont permis que cette réunion se fasse.
Thanks very much, Claudine. And then our final speaker, very delighted to welcome Francis Wurtz, who for many years was the chair of the United European Left Group, the GUI, in the European Parliament, and is now an honorary MEP. Francis.
Oui, chers amis, pour délégitimer l'OTAN, je voudrais ajouter à votre réflexion une proposition supplémentaire ou complémentaire à toutes celles qui ont déjà été faites. Nous avons la preuve que depuis presque 10 ans, la défense de l'OTAN est l'obstacle principal à la conclusion d'un traité européen de sécurité collective qui nous fait gravement défaut. À quoi je fais allusion? En juin 2008, le président russe de l'époque, Medvedev, a fait officiellement, depuis Berlin, une proposition aux dirigeants européens de travailler à la réunion de négociation pour arriver à un traité pan-européen de sécurité. Il avait dit, notre but est de liquider définitivement l'héritage de la guerre froide. Il a dit « Nous avons beaucoup de contentieux accumulés, tous ces contentieux doivent être mis sur la table. » Depuis les questions de désarmement jusqu'aux conflits gelés, y compris en passant, disait-il, par la nécessaire garantie d'approvisionnement des Européens en hydrocarbures. Bref, tout ce qui fait problème, on peut en discuter. Simplement, disait-il, il faut qu'on soit d'accord sur un principe, c'est que la sécurité est indivisible. C'était selon lui le premier article de ce traité. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Sécurité indivisible, il a dit, ça veut dire que chaque mesure de sécurité prise par un État signataire de ce traité doit prendre en considération les intérêts sécuritaires de tous les autres membres. Sous-entendu, il ne faut pas que l'OTAN prenne des mesures et, au nom de sa sécurité, au nom de la sécurité de ses membres, qui mettent en cause la sécurité d'autres membres signataires de ce traité. Or, qu'a-t-il eu comme réaction? Aucune réponse officielle, ni de l'Union européenne, ni d'aucun État membre. En revanche, il y a eu, j'étais effectivement à l'époque au Parlement européen, donc j'étais directement confronté à ça, il y a eu de nombreux commentaires informels des dirigeants européens qui ont dit quoi? Un, il n'est pas question de donner à la Russie un veto sur l'élargissement de l'OTAN, puisque une des questions c'était stop à l'élargissement de l'OTAN jusqu'à nos frontières. Il est hors de question de bloquer le bouclier antimissile, puisque c'est une mesure dite de sécurité qui met en cause la sécurité d'un autre État. Il est hors de question de donner à Moscou un droit de regard sur les opérations militaires de l'OTAN. Et il est hors de question de donner une garantie de non-adhésion de l'Ukraine à l'OTAN. Tous les prétextes avancés pour justifier une fin de non-recevoir à cette proposition quand même intéressante avaient trait à l'OTAN. Je pense que ce sont des choses à dire, non seulement pour délégitimer l'OTAN, mais aussi pour ouvrir la voie à une mobilisation, je trouve, à un objectif magnifique qui pourrait être très rassembleur des militants et militantes de la paix au sens le plus large, pas seulement qui sont les plus militants dans les organisations, mais aussi oui, on a parlé de syndicalistes et des intellectuels et des personnalités qui peuvent se mobiliser, se sentir motivés pour faire quelque chose en faveur de ce que nous appelons souvent une conférence Helsinki 2, qui pourrait reprendre les aspects encore actuels de la conférence d'Helsinki de 1975, et Dieu sait s'il y a des choses actuelles. Il a été souligné à juste raison dans l'atelier numéro 2 tout à l'heure que c'était le premier traité qui avait une conception globale de la sécurité, y compris les droits humains, y compris l'environnement d'ailleurs. Donc garder tout ce qui est bon, rajouter cette question de la sécurité indivisible, qui me paraît tout à fait fondamentale si on veut que le traité ait une portée effective. Et j'ajouterais, et ça aussi ça a été dit dans ce groupe de travail, je suis complètement de cet avis, qu'il faudrait non pas attendre que les États se surpassent et acceptent enfin d'envisager cet objectif, mais d'en faire une affaire des sociétés civiles, d'en faire une affaire convergente, parce que ce qui est essentiel, c'est que se crée un climat de confiance, c'est que se crée un climat de dialogue, de concertation, de coopération. Évidemment, on n'est jamais sûr que ce genre d'initiative réussisse, mais ce dont on peut être sûr, c'est qu'avec le maintien tel quel de l'OTAN, on va échouer. Je vous remercie.
Thanks very much indeed, Francis, and thanks to all our speakers. We've now got some time for questions and comments and discussion. Is there a floor microphone? Is there a microphone? There we go. Yes. Lucas, would you mind? Thanks very much. Okay, Brenda.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Catherine Margaté. Je fais partie de la délégation du Parti communiste qui assiste à cette très intéressante réunion. Et je voudrais intervenir au nom de Mayor for Peace. Et je pense que on a parlé du rassemblement des organisations non gouvernementales, des ONG, des syndicats. Je pense que c'est intéressant aussi de voir les élus. Il existe au niveau mondial une organisation qui s'appelle Mayor for Peace. J'ai été maire pendant 20 ans, j'en faisais partie, et donc je connais un petit peu. Et je trouve que c'est important aussi de s'appuyer sur les élus qui peuvent, y compris au niveau local, faire avancer ce qu'on appelle la culture de paix et faire avancer toutes les initiatives en direction de la paix. Donc je voulais simplement rajouter cette notion des élus. Voilà.
Okay, so we'll take a few questions and comments, and then I'll come back to the panel, and if we've got time, we'll have a second round. So, if you don't mind going all the way up to the back. Yeah, Carol.
Thank you, Kate. Carol from CMD in the UK. I wanted to mention an initiative which we will be taking next year, which we hope will be a Europe-wide, which will attract Europe-wide support, and in my view is very important in developing, in spreading the word and in developing a new audience and attracting new sections of society. And that is a conference on the impact of new and emerging weapons and new technology, and the degree and extent to which that changes and perhaps encourages different forms of warfighting. If you're from an organisation which is looking at this issue, or which is interested in participating, then may I encourage you to speak to Dave Webb, who's one of the organising committee, or myself before you leave this afternoon. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Carol. Okay, there's a friend here. Yeah, just in the middle here. And then afterwards to the lady in the row in front.
I'm very pleased to see again some faces on the panel which are very familiar to me from the context of the European Social Forum, which as such does not exist anymore, unfortunately, but there is another phenomenon which is rising up in the context of the World Social Forum, the idea to form regional assemblies of resistances. We are trying to organize something in the area of Mexico, which has very much to do with Trump. We are trying to get something going in the Eastern European countries, which has very much to do with NATO and the mobilization. And my question would be if there is a consensus in this strategy of enlargement to get together more trade unions, more organizations under the umbrella of something which has a structure out of which you remember, Chris, in 2003, it was in the framework of the World Social Forum that this idea was born of the 15th, finally the big mobilization Reiner Braun referred to. That's to say, to enlarge not only our intention, but also the framework in which we could move to a bigger kind of actions and activity and level of organization.
Thanks. And the woman there on the row in front, if you pass it along there. Yeah, the woman there. Can you put your hand up? Yeah. No, not to you. Sorry. No, the lady behind. I pointed to her about 3 times. Sorry.
Thank you very much. My name is Claudine. I'm from the anti-racist movement in the Netherlands. And recently I started to build with some friends the peace movement also, only in Amsterdam, a small group. But my background is the anti-racist movement. I am very happy to be here for these 2 days, yesterday to the demonstration and today in the conference. I've learned a lot because I'm a bit new in this movement. But I want to make one critical thing. I told you I am from the anti-racist movement. When you look at the wars in the world, there's a lot to speak about Africa, about Mali, about Somalia, about Eritrea, about a lot of other countries. And what I miss here in this audience, and all over the workshops also, are people of color. And I would like to add to the whole organization, they did a very beautiful job, but next time please ask some people from Somalia, for example. There are a lot of people in the Netherlands and in Belgium also, refugees. They have a lot to say about this issue also, from their perspective. And I would like to make a comment about this. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Here in the turquoise t-shirt.
Bonjour. Je rappelle quand même que les 2% ont été votés à Cardiff en 2014 par tous les États de l'OTAN. Donc, on ne doit pas être étonné que Trump vient avec ça, mais en fait, c'est déjà établi. Il n'invente rien. Nous l'avons voté en Belgique, en France, partout. Voilà. Et je voudrais qu'on ne s'étonne pas de ces 2% aujourd'hui.
Thanks very much. And then over here to Tobias. Can I just see who else wants to... Yeah, a couple of friends there.
My name is Tobias Brüger. I have 2 points. I think I want to underline the point that we have to focus on the debate about the 2%, what they will increase the money for military budgets. That's very important because in this case you also can combine it to the question of social, what they spend for social questions. And I think it's absolutely necessary, because we spoke before in the workshop, what does it mean? It doesn't mean more buying of weapons, it does mean more export of weapons, it does mean more military missions, and it will increase all the problems more and more. So it's absolutely necessary to bring this into focus, to fight against this increasing the military budgets to this 2%. The second point, today they decided a very interesting point, that NATO will participate in the fight against Islamic State, IS. And it's very interesting when you check the media about this, some are aware of this, what this means. This means that all the NATO member states will be part of the direct bombing. In the moment you have a little bit of participation of some, and some are helping and some are not, and this will be a big escalation. One of the comments is 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 losing, and with this decision of NATO, it's something like to bring it back. The that's very interesting, and I think also that we as a peace movement very clear have to say, no, we don't want that the NATO fights with all the bombing what they are doing in Syria and Iraq, we don't want that they do this fighting against IS, because that means that IS will be stronger than before and not that it will be destroyed as they always say.
Thanks very much. We've got two friends over there. Okay, you see the man in the green jacket there? Yeah, pass it on. Thanks very much.
My name is Hudson. I'm also coming from Holland. I just want to emphasize what has been already said with the woman in front of me. I was originally born in Somalia, and for the last 17 years I have been living in Holland. And I would like to thank very much the organization which has made this possible. But I would appreciate next time if people will get more chance also to come here in front and tell their story. I think it will make a positive contribution, because there is a lot to be said. Like all of us know, there is a lot of problem, huge problem when it comes to refugees, and I think that some people may not know the real picture what is happening in Africa. We are only seeing news from different channels, but when somebody can tell the story personally, I think it will go deeper into the hearts of the people who are here and the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Friend behind. Yeah, the man there in the grey, and then the friend at the back. Yeah, and then that may be it. Okay, go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, mon nom est Gilles Smets, je suis membre du Parti humaniste, et de tout ce qui a été dit aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment très très intéressant. D'abord remercier les organisateurs, et peut-être que plus fondamentalement, au-delà de tout ce qui a été dit, c'est intéressant aussi de se reconnecter tous au sens de l'évolution de l'humanité, c'est-à-dire vaincre la douleur et la souffrance. Et aujourd'hui, le monde est en train de reculer. Et je pense que par rapport à ce thème qu'aujourd'hui on est en train de militariser les consciences, il faut humaniser les consciences, et il y a notamment un travail très important à faire là, envers les jeunes. Je voudrais aussi, je pense que c'est une réalité pour tout le monde, mais peut-être le rappeler, c'est le lien entre les centrales électriques nucléaires et l'armement nucléaire. Il me semble qu'aussi tout le mouvement de la paix devrait se mobiliser pour la fermeture de ces centrales nucléaires, qui sont les sources d'approvisionnement pour la fabrication de ces armes nucléaires. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, so there are two hands. There's one in turquoise, and then a man in front, and then that's it, and we'll come back to the panel. Go ahead.
My name is Sri. I'm a member of the Belgian and International Coalition to Ban Uranium Weapons. And together with a platform of peace organizations in Belgium, we are now trying to work out a new campaign of civil disobedience to pay taxes for war, for weapons for the army. I think it's not enough to be against something, but we need to also be for something. So what we want and what we demand is a ministry for peace, a peace fund where we can help to solve conflicts in a peaceful way, negotiations, diplomatic negotiations. So I think this is important to give alternative. Instead of being against, that's good, but you need to replace this against by something positive. And we know very well what we want peace. So we have the right to demand means for that. And one of the means is our taxes. I don't agree to pay tax for the army and for wars. So this is one alternative that we try to work out. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And then Marcus
Oui, je suis Christian Piotr du Parti communiste des ouvriers de France. Je veux tout d'abord vraiment remercier tous les camarades, tous les amis de Belgique qui ont organisé cette formidable rencontre. C'est un énorme travail et encore une fois, merci pour votre travail. La deuxième chose, c'est que je partage totalement l'importance de la campagne sur les 2%. Parce que cette campagne fait très concrètement le lien entre la lutte contre la politique de guerre et la remise en cause des politiques sociales. Et ça nous permet d'élargir beaucoup plus notre terrain d'action, notre terrain de mobilisation, et de le faire de façon unitaire avec toutes les organisations, qu'elles soient politiques, qu'elles soient petites, qu'elles soient grandes, avec des syndicalistes, avec des syndicats, avec des organisations politiques. Troisième question qui me semble très importante, qui a été soulevée, c'est la question de refus de participer à la guerre contre le terrorisme. Et là-dessus, permettez-moi de souligner une question. C'est la guerre contre le terrorisme qui est menée en Afrique. Une guerre qui est menée en particulier par la France, le Royaume-Uni, l'Allemagne et évidemment les États-Unis. Et ça, cette dénonciation de cette guerre contre le terrorisme en Afrique nous permet aussi de faire le lien avec la question des réfugiés. Parce qu'une grande partie des populations africaines qui fuient ces guerres se retrouvent ensuite en train de vouloir franchir la mer Méditerranée. Beaucoup meurent dans cette traversée et quelques-uns arrivent en Europe où ils sont traités comme des parias. Donc, je pense que si nous partons d'ici, et c'est en tout cas dans cet esprit que nous allons partir d'ici, avec une feuille de route, avec des objectifs que nous savons que nous allons partager avec vous tous. Et je vous remercie tous de participer à cette feuille de route, de travailler ensemble pour renforcer le mouvement pour la paix, le mouvement contre la guerre. Je vous remercie.
We can't take everyone because we have to have time for the speakers to respond. So I'll take the speakers in reverse order. So Francis, would you like to go first? Do you have the microphone here? Or do you want to go to...
Merci. Oui, je n'ai pas eu d'interpellation sur le sujet que j'ai traité, mais j'ai beaucoup écouté ce que vous avez dit et je voudrais donner un petit conseil très pratique par rapport à l'affaire des 2%. Ici, tout le monde comprend ce que ça veut dire. Mais chacun doit avoir à l'esprit que dans la population, 2%, ça ne fait pas grand-chose parce qu'on ne sait pas de quoi on parle. 2% des richesses nationales, pour un pays comme la France, ça fait 40 milliards d'euros. Et donc la différence entre le budget de la défense déjà énorme français et le budget à 2% du produit intérieur brut, la différence fait 10 milliards. 10 milliards d'euros, il faut expliquer aux gens combien ça fait de lits d'hôpital, combien ça fait de classes d'une école, combien ça fait de bibliothèques municipales, pour faire toucher du doigt l'extraordinaire gâchis supplémentaire auquel on voudrait les exposer. C'est tout.
Thanks very much, Claudine.
Je voudrais dire deux mots à propos de l'importance de se préoccuper, de se solidariser avec les peuples d'Afrique, tous les pays qui ont été cités par les personnes présentes. Et il faut ajouter toute l'Amérique latine, toujours en relation avec l'OTAN. L'OTAN est en Amérique latine, l'OTAN est en Afrique, l'OTAN est au Moyen-Orient. Notre lutte est vraiment globale et de plus en plus, ça a une importance de voir globalement et les problèmes et la nécessité de la solidarité. Un autre point, à propos de la lutte contre le terrorisme, il faut quand même rappeler que ça date d'un sommet de l'OTAN lié au début de la guerre en Afghanistan. Ça n'est pas d'aujourd'hui. L'affirmation qu'il faut tous mener la lutte contre le terrorisme. C'est vrai que Trump prétend maintenant que c'est l'OTAN en tant que telle qui doit mener cette lutte, mais c'est pratiquement l'OTAN en tant que telle qui le fait déjà depuis l'Afghanistan. Il faut bien en tenir compte. Donc tous nos gouvernements sont déjà responsables de toutes ces situations depuis 15 ans. Quand il y a eu le 11 septembre, le Premier ministre belge Verhofstadt criait « Nous sommes tous américains », donc tous la lutte contre le terrorisme, et puis ça s'est amplifié. Donc là, il ne faut pas, je pense, réduire l'importance de cette nécessité de la lutte contre le terrorisme, mais la situer correctement. Et là, il y a quand même un déficit dans les mouvements de la paix. Ça s'est exprimé, entre autres, que dans tous les ateliers qu'on a organisés, on n'a pas mis à l'ordre du jour les coalitions de volontaires dans la lutte contre le terrorisme. Donc on n'a pas mis comme atelier, en réflexion et en discussion, la situation terrible qui se passe en Syrie, qui se passe au Yémen. C'est ça les fonds de la lutte contre le terrorisme. Et pour éviter des confrontations entre différentes tendances, en particulier pour la Syrie, des différentes tendances dans la gauche et dans le mouvement de la paix, on a mis cette question de côté, alors que c'est quelque chose d'essentiel et qui va de toute façon nous tomber sur la tête à un moment ou à un autre.
Okay, thanks. Reiner?
You know, I think we should never forget that the old sentence of the peace movement, war is terror, is the only and correct answer to all this discussion about the discussion about terror. And so we have to fight against war. And war creates terror. And when we are discussing now about ISIS, what does this mean? This means not only that we enlarge the terror on other countries, but the terror will also come to us. Every bombing we are doing in every country, every bombing on a wedding, or every bombing on a funeral, which creates so-called new terrorists. When we really want to overcome terror, we have to come back to negotiations, to politics, to agreements, to ceasefires, to negotiations, and to social justice, to overcome the background why we have the deep division between rich and poor. The only fight against terror is a fight for peace and social justice. No other fight will be successful. And this reminds me, you know, I really would like to close with that, to these very famous and old slogan from Jean Jaurès. You know, when he was speaking and say, the capitalist system carries the war in it, like the cloud, the rain. So we always have to think, when we want to overcome arms production, arms race, arms export, we have to think about the profit and about the system which is behind it. And the system has one name. The militarist name of the system is today NATO, global NATO, because NATO is not a North Atlantic alliance any longer. And to overcome global NATO, this is our common goal and common aim, and we have to fight for that.
Yeah, I want to just agree with the point that Leo made about the importance of international anti-war organisation, and congratulate once again the organisers of today's conference and of yesterday's demonstration, because clearly this is a very, very important matter. The generation of a serious international anti-war movement remains critical, and I like the 2% campaigning idea. I think that has the ability to mobilise people in different ways across NATO, and that's important. But I also think you have to watch what Donald Trump is doing in NATO at the moment. We are talking about now an escalation. We're talking about an expansion of NATO interventions on a number of different fronts. And it may well be, and we should start preparing for this now, that just as we organise internationally on a massive scale for the intervention against Iraq, we may now have to be starting to think about doing similar things about the wars that Trump is clearly planning. And in particular, I think we have to pay attention to the international alliance that is being created by NATO and beyond against Iran. It seems to me that this is a moment of serious danger, and we need to be thinking internationally about how we organise against that. On the issue of the connections with the movement, I think it's very, very important to make the connections over finance, over austerity. I think we found it's a very, very important thing to embed the anti-war arguments in every section of the movement. So when there's a demonstration against cuts, when there's a demonstration against hospital closures, when there's a demonstration against reduction in education budgets, there needs to be a section of people on that demonstration and that protest saying welfare, not warfare. Because this opens up an argument that challenges the fatalism of neoliberalism. It shows that the spending decisions are indeed political decisions. The free market is actually something that is extremely political. It is real politicians that are creating a situation where military budgets are put over and above social budgets. And that's an important argument. It's something that can actually invigorate the movement and strengthen the movement, both the anti-war and the anti-austerity movements. And a similar thing on the question of racism. Islamophobia, it seems to me, is one of the central social problems that we all face. And Islamophobia is more than anything a form of war propaganda, a way of trying to justify foreign wars, of creating the conditions in which it is possible to win populations to support what are basically unpopular interventions. And therefore, I absolutely agree the argument has to be, when we march against war, we also march in defence of Muslims. When we march against foreign interventions, we're also marching in defence of refugees and against the brutality that is being meted out against them. And just finally, I want to say, I think it's important to inject a note of optimism in extremely challenging times. And I think it is the case that we collectively, and the experience of the last 16 or 17 years, has done a huge amount to delegitimate and to actually undermine popular support for the foreign wars that have been fought in our name over the last 16 or 17 years. It is the case in almost every country that majorities of the population think that Iraq was wrong, the occupation of Afghanistan was wrong, the Libyan intervention was a disaster. In many countries, people understand that the intervention in Syria is equally wrong. And that's an achievement that we must understand in order to move forward. And in Britain, we are facing a situation now where the leader of an opposition party, the main opposition party, in a general election is someone who is widely understood to oppose these interventions, to oppose these foreign wars, to oppose this foreign policy, and actually wants to radically change British foreign policy. 2 weeks before an election, that is the understanding of millions of people. And whatever happens, it's an absolutely an uphill struggle, this election, clearly. But whatever happens, tens of millions of people in Britain in this election are going to vote for a man who stands against war, who stands against the last 16 years of the war on terror and wants to campaign against it. And that's a product, again, of everything that we've done. It's a product of the anti-war movement, and it's something that should bring us hope and convince us that we need to continue to campaign and expand our campaigns. Thanks very much.
Well, I call for sanctions and a boycott on the United States of America for its involvement in all of this stuff. And, in order to catch the attention of people in the U.S., you've got to do something really strong. And I think really a call for, we boycott and we sanction all sorts of other people, all sorts of other nations for human rights abuses, for these types of things, and I think it's high time the world puts sanctions on the United States for its involvement in all of these horrific, horrific things that have happened in the Middle East and other places in the world. I want to mention that Toledo, this idea of coordination of on issues in different parts of the world. You mentioned resistance in Mexico. Well, we do have Veterans for Peace will be gathering with School of the Americas on the border of U.S. and Mexico, where we did in November of this last year. And we will be discussing the issues of border security, of treatment of people who are coming across for economic reasons into the United States and who have been treated so brutally, and the deportations of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people under very, very extreme circumstances from the United States. And to our gentleman here from the Netherlands, who's from Somalia, 17 years living in the Netherlands, you are so right that we must be listening to the stories of people that come from these regions that have been conflicted, who have had wars that have been going on, and who have the information that we really need in order to convince our fellow countrymen and women that war is not the answer, that supporting conflict, supporting the military-industrial complex that makes so many billions of dollars every single day out of these wars and conflicts. So we've got a lot to do, and then please wish dear Jeremy the very best in this next election. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Here's Jeremy, who I'm sure would have been here if he weren't on the docket. He would have been sitting right here with us. He's one of us, and if all we can do is just send great thoughts to him, we certainly do. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, and thanks to all our speakers and to all our participants. We'll now change over for the concluding remarks from Claudia and Ludo.
Dear friends, this was a day of inspiring discussions, and yesterday we got a really inspiring demonstration. And as Reiner mentioned, it showed the way to the future and to organize, to bring people from different political backgrounds, even sometimes people with no political background, together to march for a more human future, against war and for decent conduct between human beings with one another. We've been talking to simplify our messages. Unfortunately, NATO already did this. Maybe you've seen the posters of NATO. They have had these three slogans: we are allies, we are united, and we are NATO, hashtag at the end, for the Twitter kings among them. So we also are able to simplify our messages. So our central slogan, like no to war, no to NATO, is a simplification, but still it is a very strong message, a message we need to deliver. I want to, at the end, tell you some highlights of what NATO has done in this mini summit. It's not a real summit, but kind of mini summit, but still not to be underestimated in the content of what we've been talking about. Just as we are speaking here, sitting together in our last minutes, they concluded a ceremony in which they celebrated themselves as the defenders of the so-called free world. What I mean is not freedom of movement, freedom of people, but freedom for the economy, freedom of money, freedom of products, but not freedom of people. Freedom to intervene wherever they want, freedom for the military. So this is not our free world. I'm very much in favor of a free world, but this is not it. And they showed they actually combined the ceremony by pointing out their enemies. They made two symbolic gestures. They presented a piece of the Berlin Wall. It's crazy. The end of the Berlin Wall was actually up to Soviet Union and the people in the GDR who did fight for getting rid of the wall, but nothing NATO did for those people, but they celebrate themselves as liberators of all the people in the East. And also they put on their kind of memorial a piece of the World Trade Center to firmly put in people's mind that the Muslims, not some terrorists, but the Muslims are the enemy, and they celebrate themselves as fighting against Russia, which actually enabled the fall down of the Berlin Wall, and against more or less all the people in the Muslim world. And therefore, I think we see like a big mobilizing of NATO for more wars and for demonizing all of the world. At the moment, we could see, if we're not inside of here, a parade in the air of fighter jets from different countries, from Belgium, of course, as we are here, but also from the Czech Republic and from Italy and obviously from many other countries, showing in this kind of flyover how strong NATO is. They celebrate their strength. I think there's nothing to celebrate, but they do. And also they handed over ceremonially the new NATO headquarters, something we had to pay for, and something we can never be proud of. And what we see is that they agreed on a yearly report, yearly evaluations of NATO's progress on the 3 C's. On cash, capabilities and contributions. So they are not only pressing the member states to go to this 2% goal, which is bad enough, but they also want to really build up the capabilities, the military capabilities, so that they can actually inflict harm with the money they spend, and they are checking the contribution those countries are making in those different wars. So for my country, for Germany, it means that actually we will have a discussion of stepping up the military contribution of the German armed forces, for example, in Afghanistan, in Mali, and so on and so on. And this will be a yearly review. So I propose to us, we make a yearly review about what NATO is actually doing, what they are not doing for peace, and what we could do instead. So just to have the arguments always ready. As soon as we know the exact date, they do their review, we also do our review, make a kind of peace review against this war 3 Cs. Maybe we find a nice abbreviation also of 3 Cs for us, or 3P, like peace and whatever, peace people and so on. You find something nice for this. And as Tobias already mentioned, NATO decided to be part of this officially, not just unofficially as we already are, but officially to be part of this anti-IS coalition. And this means actually to continue this failed and catastrophic war on terror. And I want to propose things you've already mentioned here, which we could have in the center of our common campaigns. But the most important thing is that we agree never to be silent, whatever happens, and that we agree not to be divided. And as we face really huge challenges, we face the challenge of, for example, mass starvation in Yemen. And this is actually also due to NATO, because Saudi Arabia couldn't hold up this blockade without the military support of NATO members and without weapons coming from NATO member states. So we are responsible for the millions of people starving and probably dying in Yemen. And this has to stop. This is one of the greatest catastrophes we face at the moment. We are responsible as members of NATO for the mass grave which has become out of the Mediterranean Sea. And therefore we have to stop fighting refugees. And it's clear at the moment NATO is preparing for a stronger role of nuclear arms. So it is really great that we have this global movement for a nuclear ban. And yes, all of this could not happen without demonizing on the one side Russia and on the other side all the Muslim people all over the world. So we have to focus very, very clear. We have to focus, I say, 5 points that we could focus on. The nuclear ban treaty, 1. Second, on disarmament. Third, on human rights of all people, on refugees' rights and respect for differences. Fourth, on social and global justice, because without this we will not have peace globally. And fifth, we have to remind people that there is diplomacy, that there is a way to talk with your potential enemy, and that we can come back to security policies which are not against others, but common security policies. And there have been a lot of examples mentioned here, but we have to remind people again and again that war is not the solution, but there is a possibility to talk with one another. And it is clear what we have to fight against. It's this 2% goal, or maybe the 3 or 4% goal, but in any case, to make clear what it means. In case of Germany, it means we could, with the same money, we would have to invest in war. We could get apartments for 140,000 people each year. Or families, I should actually say, not only people, but families. 140,000 people could have a decent way to live if we wouldn't spend the money on these destructive arms. So we can make it very clear what it means. We have to fight against climate change as a reason for wars. We have to build alliances, we have to build structures, therefore it's good that we have the international coalition against NATO. We have to target the profiteers of wars and the military-industrial complex, and we really have to stop demonizing people. We have to fight racism. And yes, we can make slogans which are very concrete, but let me change a little bit what NATO is doing to come to the end. We could say, we are determined, we are united, and we are definitely not NATO. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Claudia. So before we hear from Leo, just to round up some of those many points that you shared with us, I'm sure those will be put on the website afterwards so people can follow them, but just for our general endorsement, fantastic idea for a peace review to counter the NATO review, never to be silent, never to be divided, and some priorities for our work can include the ban treaty, disarmament, human and refugee rights, against demonisation, for social and global justice, and highlighting always dialogue and common security policy. So I'm sure we all agree with that, and the detail will be on the website. So Ludo, over to you now.
Yeah, very short, because it has been a long day. Dear friends, Trump, you know what he said just now, a few minutes ago, to his European colleagues? You owe us a lot of money, he said. And I would say from here, no, Mr. Trump, you owe us a lot of peace. So, we are very grateful that this has been a very beautiful counter summit, I think. NATO counter summit, it has been said lots of times, this beautiful demonstration. I was astonished myself. I was in the organization, but you never know how it works out. But it was colorful. The weather was with us. Today not, because it should rain today. That's why maybe less Belgians than we expected, for example. But it was very good. It was great, and it was thanks to you all that we had this successful summit. And you can applaud yourself for that, I think.
Yeah.
I think when I summarize our actions, I think we can say, because this was a slogan, we are united, and we were really united yesterday because we really established this coalition of all kinds of movements, as already has been said several times, the women's movement, environmental movement, trade unions, students, all kinds of movement, anti-racist movements, and this made that we have been with 12,000 people yesterday in the streets, very colorful, and with a lot of media attention. I can tell you there was really, from all over the world, press that covered what we have done yesterday. And we have also been united internationally. This is also very important, international solidarity. Because when we prepared, we started last year in December, we had some meetings. It was Belgian peace movement together with the international peace movement, and I think it's very important to continue on that. And it's true, we need more color in it. We need also maybe more young people still in it, but I can tell you something about that in a second. Some of the press people asked me, do you really think you can change something? I said, yeah, it depends what you want, what you mean with changing. And I say, yes, of course we can change if we continue and we succeed to reach out to the people and to large sections of people. And if we continue and succeed, and this is very important, to show the true face of NATO, which is nothing else than a war machine. It's a war machine, and we really need, it's for us all a challenge. We need to show that it is really what it is. It's a war machine, nothing else. It's against our security. So you ask yourself, there are more young people, we are very diverse, I see we are almost gender balanced, but there are also young people, you have seen them in the street yesterday. Well, there have been 50 peace activists now, this afternoon, doing direct actions, non-violent actions, just close to the NATO headquarters, the new NATO headquarters. I don't know if you know, which has cost 1 billion euros. 1 billion euros for a building for a war machine. So there have been, I called with some of the activists, there have been on several crossroads, there have been some banners with messages. There have been pictures, I think there was press, I don't know, we have to see later this evening what has been covered. But they also succeed to block, I'm told I cannot use this word, but I use it here because legally it's difficult to say you block something. But they blocked the main road, Leopold 3, Avenue Leopold 3, and when I was calling, they were still blocking it or partly blocking it, and so they were with 150 people doing it. So it's a great these pictures, they told me you should go to the hashtag StopNato 2017 on Twitter and Facebook, and you should find the pictures of it. Last but not least, some practical announcements. So first, the headsets you have, please do return it, and I think you gave your identity cards, so that we're not stuck with your identity cards when you go back home. Please, so return the headsets. Also, those who put materials on the tables, because we need to clean a little bit up, please, what is not taken with, take it with you, what is left, so that we don't have to throw it in the waste bin, and so take your responsibility on that if possible. And then, I think it's very important to congratulate and to give an applause to the people who made this possible. I mean, there have been volunteers working on it, sometimes really long days and many hours. And again, I say it again, with those translators, really they have been the whole day there, translating, helping us, understanding each other. Thank you very much. So, and then we invite you for a drink. You receive a ticket. You can throw it away because we just give it. You can drink as much as you want. But if you really want to drink a bottle, please, then you can give a small contribution. You're free to give a small contribution. And if you find some funding somewhere, you're welcome, because we need some little bit more money. I don't want to beg for it, but it would be fine to have it. Okay. Thank you very much. And so on the first floor, not the first floor, ground floor, there is a reception. Okay.